Hello, Sarah. Can you hear us?
As Luis already mentioned, the second phase of the VCW is about brainstorming of ideas. And the challenge in this phase is that companies normally look at a certain group of people who love their products and ignore the rest. However, in order to grow and remain competitive, they need to have the whole perspective and also listen to those who are skeptical toward innovations and act as devil's advocate. So the people who are normally excluded from the idea generation are the late adopters. Those are the users who are adopting to the products last. So this is the topic I've been working on with Luis in the past couple of years, which is late adopters of technology-based products, services, breakthrough and incremental innovations. So as product life cycles speed up, these consumers are a growing and increasingly influential group. In order to take advantage of late adopters, the first essential step is to identify them. So we have developed a measurement scale, which is called the late adopter scale, which helps companies identify who are late adopters. Once we identify them, we figure out that these users think very differently from the other users, so we needed a customized method to involve them in the idea generation. That's why our second step was to develop the lag user method, a 7-step new product development method, which is designed to coach late adopters and laggers to come up with new ideas. So ideas provided by late adopters and laggards can help companies remain competitive, increase value while cutting costs, extend the product life cycle, and cross enhance. Now, both these projects have been already published in academic journals and also featured in the international press, starting with the Wall Street Journal. So what is our vision for this project? Our vision for this project is to help companies understand the importance of late adopters and to coach them to value the contribution of late adopters and laggards to their idea generation and new product development process. And our next step would be to explore this more and to better understand the determinants of late adoption. So currently we are looking for partners from business and academia to expand this and explore this topic more. If any of you out there is interested, feel free to contact me or Luis. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Good day, everyone. My name is Jeffra Fulani, Mozambican. Like this. And I'm a student of PhD in Tropical Knowledge and Management here at University. Well,
you did a speech.
To guide myself. Okay. This is quite new, and I accepted this challenge in order to see how can I do and complete my research using this framework. And my research question is, how can the national health system improve access and promote use of health services to women who are both infected by HIV/AIDS and cervical cancer in Mozambique? Well, the problem is there is a lack of an effective program in the country that integrates different HIV/AIDS related illnesses. And the way I will use valid creative will is trying to strengthen the national health system in order to be more consumer-driven, creating services that are more adequate to national health profile and national health predictions. Based in a case study that will be supported by theory, I hope and expect that this research will bring an integrative and holistic response to HIV and related illnesses in Mozambique by adding a management value and new creative approaches. So this is a brief introduction of what can happen, and is also open.
So that will be our journey for the next 4 years, correct? If Jorge does not push you towards 10 years.
No pressure.
No pressure, no pressure. Thank you very much, Jeffrey. Thank you.
My name is Filipa Lancastre, and I'm a PhD student here at Nova SBE. And I've just started my PhD program very recently, last September to be more precise. And I've chosen the topic of social entrepreneurship because of two reasons. First, because I've very recently been involved in social organizations, and I find them very interesting and very relevant in the times we are right now. And second, because previously to my involvement in social organizations, I have been a strategic consultant myself at McKinsey, and I have, so it is for me very strange not to look at a new environment and question lots of things, namely how can we leverage business practices and use them in social organizations. I've learned about these social entrepreneurship organizations, and I wondered if the organizations that were closer to me, that in some way I knew, could they also be called social entrepreneurship organizations? Why did it care? The main reason why I cared about this is because I'm interested in finding out how can we leverage these organizations to create more social impact, and how can social impact be created. But I need to define first what the universe is. And there is no single definition. This is what I've learned when I started studying this phenomena. There is no single definition about social entrepreneurship. And so I was dealing with a lot of complexity, and I really wanted to run away from all this uncertainty as quickly as possible, although many people told me that it was really the most natural thing for a PhD student to face uncertainty and to try to run away from it. I was really trying to close this stage, but Luis actually suggested I would use the framework to see if I could tap this problem and follow up with my program, with my PhD program. So how did the framework help me? So first of all, it really made me, I think it helped me in two ways, at least in two ways. First, it helped me embrace uncertainty. Instead of trying to run away from it, I embraced uncertainty and the diversity of definitions that were there. Second, it helped me by defining a process and by designing my research. And so it was easier for me to see how, I didn't have the solution, I don't have the solution right now, but I can see the process developing, and I can see what stages I need to follow in order to achieve a solution. So my first step was exactly as I was telling you, to define the research question. And the research question that came from all the literature review and some interviews I've done with practitioners on the field was, how can we define, how can we conceptualize and measure social entrepreneurial activity? Moving into stage 2, where I did embrace this uncertainty and diversity of definitions, I reviewed literature thoroughly, looking for as many definitions as I could possibly find from social entrepreneurship. And I did find 40 very different and relevant definitions of social entrepreneurship to make sure there was a theoretical saturation. And with these 40 definitions, I've tried to do two things. One is to make sense and to classify these definitions according to two different characteristics. And second, to identify the dimensions that constituted the social entrepreneurship phenomena. After this phase, and I will try to move on to my third stage, which is assess. And in here, I will try to validate the dimensions with experts, not only within the academia, but also from practitioners, and conduct exploratory factor analysis to assess which dimensions and items are relevant to incorporate the construct. I will then follow up with narrowing it down to conceptualize the phenomena and including some filters, because the dimensions that I will find out in my third stage won't all be relevant for all definitions. I will choose one definition, and this will narrow down the dimensions that are important to describe the phenomena. And finally, I will do some research on the phenomena by using the validated measure and test hypothesis, which was what I really wanted to do from the beginning, with scientific rigor. So moving on to stage 2, again, what have I found out from analyzing the 40 definitions? So as I told you, I have looked to all these definitions and tried to classify them in two different ways. First, does the definition, what is the relevance of the social purpose in the definition? Is it any social mission is considered to be social entrepreneurial, or did it have to be a systemic transformation to be considered social entrepreneurial? So, and another way of looking at the definitions was through its means, meaning did it have to have any management practices? Any management practices were good enough to consider an initiative social entrepreneurial, or did it have to show some entrepreneurial orientation, some entrepreneurial characteristics? For example, proactivity, social innovation, risk-taking, etc. And plotting the 40 dimensions this way, in this matrix, I was able to identify 3 different clusters. The most exclusive definitions are what I call the impact innovators, and they include around 13 definitions. And for these kinds of definition, only very few initiatives are considered to be social entrepreneurial. They have to have widespread impact. They have to have innovation. They have to be very relevant worldwide to be considered social entrepreneurial. But in that term, they are very exclusive. They don't include many initiatives. Okay. Then there are the second cluster, the entrepreneurial agents, which are, they don't really care about impact. They say there is social entrepreneurial activity just before they have reached the impact. There is such a social entrepreneurial activity before that. And a more inclusive kind of definition is the business like social organizations. So this is the third cluster. Finally, so in identifying the dimensions, these are the main dimensions that I found present in some or all the definitions. The social mission is common to all definitions, and then there are specific dimensions that were related to specific definitions. So these are will be the base of my next step in my PhD, which is to identify which dimensions are really relevant to identifying the phenomena, and how relevant, and how can we measure them. So, thank you very much. And
because I strongly believe it should exist a strong link between research, science, and practice. Okay. So if you are interested on exploring the research topic, the science topic, and so on, feel free to contact me or any of the people that spoke here in the audience, okay?